Hey everybody, welcome back to Brosty Guy. Today I want to do a slightly different video and talk about something I've really been talking about a lot lately, at least internally, and that is something called Hobonichi. If you've never heard of Hobonichi before, they are a brand of Japanese notebooks. And I have gone down the rabbit hole, done a lot of research, I learned a lot about these. And these ones actually, so this cover on cover here, this pen, which is the new Jetstream 0.5 fine tip and abyss green, which is pretty cool. Gonna try that one out a little bit more. This is the new A6 with the one piece collaboration cover. Pretty cool, the original size. It's pretty small. We'll talk more about that in just a minute. I also got another regular cover on cover too. So I want to make this video really quick because Hobonichi is a cult-like Japanese brand of notebooks. This is my current one. This is a 2025 Weeks in the snake zodiac print right here. It's really nice actually. I love how they have this, I know I have the cover on it right now, but it has this almost jacquard woven style snake fabric. And the snakes are really cool because they're woven in there and they're almost raised up. So when you run your finger across the fabric cover, you can feel the snakes in it, which is pretty nice. And I decided, Year of the Snake, decided to go ahead and make this my very first Hobonichi purchase earlier this year. And so far I've been really impressed by it. Let's open it up here really quick. I'll just show you a couple of examples here. But you can really do almost anything in these journals. So this is just a quick idea of something I've done here in this journal. Is over here on the weeks, especially left hand side, you can sort it out by the day. And then here you can sort it out by these are just quotes and mantras and just daily check boxes down here that I have to organize it. And some other people do some really cool stuff in here. Well, they'll actually draw out each page, or they'll use stickers to divide up their pages. And of course, some of them will be murals even, which is really, really cool. And I just love the creativity and the different things you can do with these journals. And I think that was a big reason why I decided to go ahead and just jump in the deep end of the pool here, buy this a few months ago now, and just really get the Hobonichi journey started, because I've been reading about these a lot online. Reddit has a huge forum. I know there's some other online sites out there that people talk about these on. And the more I started to read about these and see how people design them, there is, in the weeks, by the way, there is a monthly view here in the front. So you can have it divided up by the month. And then of course it has it broken down by the week, which is pretty cool. This is about when I started. And from there, I just really just continued to go down the rabbit hole. So the weeks, by the way, was my very first purchase. And then as of a few days ago, I bought this cover on cover, which I put over the weeks. It's kind of fun to do. You basically just fold the spine all the way back here, and then you just slide this. It's kind of like a rubbery, translucent cover almost. I think it's like $5. You slide it over the front here, and then voila, it basically protects your entire journal. Now, the reason why I got this is because I love the design and the fabric like we just talked about. And I love it so much I wanted to protect it because I didn't want the stitches to get ripped or anything to happen to it. So this makes it feel a little bit more substantial. The Weeks is incredibly thin by itself, and it's a little bit taller than the original A6. So you can see here, this is the Weeks behind it. It's about 1 inch taller, but let's flip it around really quick. But the original is about maybe 3/4 of an inch wider, right? It's kind of amazing. Actually, it's more like that. It's kind of amazing to see just how small the original one is. I got this, like I said, a few days ago, and I just opened them up. And I love this one piece collaboration, by the way. This is actually not leather. This is like a pleather, alternative leather, right? But yeah, it has the Luffy emboss here on the front. That's all at the end of my dream. Pretty cool. Love the color too. It's almost like a seafoam green. And the original here was different. It's more different than I thought it would be. This one is in English, of course. I actually bought this one in Japanese, admittedly, because I didn't know you could do that at first. There's an English version and a Japanese version in case you're not fluent in Japanese. I'm not. But the cool thing about the original, though, is that you get an entire page for each of the different days. And I know that in the front here, kind of like in the weeks, let's hold this up too, you can go ahead and sort it out by the entire monthly view. So it does have the breakdown there in the front, and then you also do get the full day view, and you get some cool inspirational quotes here at the bottom, which are nice. Gives you, I guess, something to look forward to each day, which is One thing I do prefer about the original A6 over the Weeks, which is just a lot more compact, right? And then in the back, you also get some other cool stuff in here. So there is dotted grid paper in the back of each of them. There's some in the back of the Weeks as well. And then here you also get just fun things like memory section. And I hope I get this in the camera here, but like 12 things to help you sleep better, right? And keep focus, help you focus. And I think the next one is comfortable night's sleep. Just really cute stuff that a lot of journals don't normally have. And Hobonichi, I feel like they go almost too cute sometimes. They just jump in the deep end of the pool. And of course they have these cool collaborations, which I ultimately fell for. I think the Zodiac for this year is the horse, by the way. So if you do want to get that one, they did the seahorse for the dragon, which was kind of fun. I think that was last year's, snake this year. And then the regular horse will be 2026. So anyways, that was cool. I got this one. Jet pens, they've been great to work with, so definitely recommend that. You can also set up site alerts too. So for example, this is the Jetstream pen I talked about earlier. I wanted to give the fine tip a try because it's a lot easier to write with. Set up alerts on there, and when these colors come back in stock, you'll get the email and just go ahead and buy it, which is great. Because another thing I learned too in this whole Hobonichi journey is that some of these go out of stock really fast. So One Piece is actually not one of the most popular collabs. I think this year the most popular ones are the Tomy ones, which are like the horror themed manga. So those ones sold out really, really fast. And the Frog and the Toad ones are also really in demand. Those are Japan only. I thought that one was really cool, but I didn't end up getting it. So that's okay. All right, one more to talk about really quick. So I have my 2026 A6 here, and then I have my current 2025 Weeks here. They have another style too that we need to talk about really quick, which is called the A5 or the cousin. And the A5 is about twice, it's almost like, it feels twice as big, I should say, than the standard A6. It's like this, if that's a decent comparison for you all. I saw one over at the store here in person, and the cousin, in my opinion, is just too big. It feels like a full-size like library book almost. And it does have cool spots in there. I saw where it has like a week view and a day view, so it almost gives you like twice as much room to write stuff in. They do have some cool collabs in the A5 size too. So for example, I know the One Piece one is a different one in the A5, and I think that the Tomy one does too, and the Tamagotchi ones do too. So they have a lot of just different collaborations depending on which size you go with. I would recommend checking that out first, because I thought that the A5 is almost too big to just carry around on a daily basis. But I know that they're also popular. They obviously are bigger, so you have more room to draw if you're into that. And of course, organize things in greater detail in a weekly view and a daily view. So if that floats your boat, then I'd recommend checking out the A5. Okay, so Weeks, kind of like a daily or like a weekly view at a high level, right? It gives you the ability to break things down in tiny sections day by day. And it gives you some room over here to track like quotes or daily goals or things like that you want to keep track of. It does give you some room in the back. I'll just hold this up really quick. I've been using it a little bit, but I could obviously write a lot more back here. But it does give you grid paper in the back of the Weeks as well, kind of like it does in the A6. And this one's in Japanese, but I can see that there are some things in the back of the Weeks too. It's just that I can't read most of this stuff. I think this is about bird watching or something. And then there's another one here about the Chinese zodiac. So it's listed out there by year, which I can understand that part. So yeah, Weeks does have some cool stuff too. But I would say that my only thing with the Weeks that I've used this for a few months now, is that if this is too cramped for you, right? And they do have a section in the front here where you can also write things out on a monthly view if you want to. But if this is too cramped for you on a daily basis, which I totally recommend, I think that the Weeks is really, really good for like a work view. So if you have just daily activities at work, things you need to track down, things you need to complete on a daily basis, this is great for it. So I've seen people online do things like, oh yeah, they'll buy a Weeks, it's very, thin planner, small days, just for their work activities. And then they'll buy something like this, the standard A6 we just saw, and they'll have something like this for their daily journaling. And that way they can just, read their quotes, write their write their own quotes in there, write their own activities and what they did that day. Just use it for real journaling, right? So I have seen people carry around 2 of these, one for personal, one for work, and that does seem like a decent compromise if you want to go that route. So overall though, I think that the week's a little too cramped for everything, for just one thing. So just think about that before you buy one. And I do recommend the cover on cover for the weeks too, because this is nice. It just, like I said, you fold it back here, you just pretty much slide it right over, and it does make it feel a lot more protected, if that makes sense. So pretty cool. I'm a big fan of my weeks. Let's just say that right now. I just don't know if it can do everything. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so for next year though, so far from what I've at least, I've just opened this up, right? So this is brand new A6 right here. I think I'm a big fan of it though. It gives you a little bit more room on a daily basis. It gives you some more activity areas, right? Things to keep track of. I have a weird feeling that this is gonna turn into my go-to. And there's a reason why the small compact A6 size is as popular as it is, right? Because it is so, it's a little bit denser than the weeks. I'd say it's about 1/3 to 40% or so denser. I know that the cover makes it balloon up a little bit more though. But at the same time, it's also not as tall, which is great. And it just feels like I can pick this up easier and just kind of throw it around easier. Now, really, really quick, let's just take a second and talk about the cover on covers, because these confuse me so much. And so many people online have these and they talk about, oh yeah, you got to protect your cool Zodiac cover, right? That's woven in there. You don't want to pop the stitches. Makes sense. Now, the issue I have is that this week's cover on cover works great. The A6 ones though, the original covers, are a little bit more confusing. And one of the big reasons I want to talk about this is because this is like a slim leatherette, right? I know they make some real leather ones too. They're a lot more expensive. These ones don't really fit well with the cover on covers. And let me show you this really fast. I'm just gonna take this, I'm gonna slide the back side of it in here. You can just kind of see me struggle with this really fast. And then I'm gonna take the front part, I'm gonna bend it a little bit. And I'm gonna slide it in there too. And that way you can see, okay, there we go. That with the leather and leatherette covers here, the cover on cover doesn't really fit. So if you check this out, you got about 1/2 inch here at the top. You got, I would say, about 1/4 inch here on the side, especially once it's fully closed. And you probably have another 1/2 inch so here on the bottom. So overall, it doesn't really fit that well. So if you do decide to go this route, I'd recommend at least thinking twice about the cover on cover. I know a lot of people online make it seem like you have to have one. And I think for these types of covers, where they're more delicate and more of a woven type, right, it would make sense. I know they make a hard cover version of the A6s too. I'd recommend getting a cover on cover for that one. I think it's the HON A6. That would make sense, kind of like the Weeks is. But for these ones, I think that, I might use it for a little while, but this is going to annoy me. I just know it is going to eventually get under my skin. So something about this is, it's nice for the protection, right? I know this is probably a nice cover, it's probably delicate, but at the same time though, just want to make sure of the fit. But yeah, I'll probably eventually take this off though as we get a little more into it. Now over here though, the difference between these is that the Weeks cover on cover is pretty straightforward. It has a card pocket here in the front and the back, which is pretty nice. It also has a little pen holder here on the back too that I totally forgot about. But the big thing it has over the A6, and why I think the Weeks cover on cover is for $5, I mean, they're pretty cheap. It's almost mandatory though, is you flip it over and you set this little marker on your particular week. I know you can use a little string tassel here, but it's pretty thin. This opens it straight up to your day of the week, which is great. So you have your weeks. Right now it's week 43. Open it up, bang. I know I just started this one for this week, so I don't even have everything drawn in here yet. But you can just get a quick idea though of, okay, cool. It's almost like a bookmark, which is great. Now for this one though, they don't have that. They have, it's a lot thinner on the front, so you just kind of slide it in. This cover does have a little pen holder on the back, but that's on the one-piece cover itself, not on the cover-on-cover. Instead, it almost has this like Ziploc bag feature. So you can pop this open here and you can slide like cards, different things you're writing, other paper, right? And just kind of Ziploc bag it here. And it's kind of unique. It's kind of different. I don't hate it. I just don't know if I love it yet because I haven't used it that much. So in comparison, I think the Weeks is essential. I think the A6 is nice to have at this point. One thing I did find though, is if you go on JetPens, if you go on the Hobonichi website, which is like 1011.com, I think, they have the other size A6 cover. So I think they call it like the Colors A6. It has the 2 pen loops here on the side. That's like the dead giveaway way. And that one is about half an inch bigger in the dimensions. So that way and that way. And apparently that one fits these cover-on covers perfectly. I did not know that a couple weeks ago now when I originally bought these. And then of course it took that long to ship them. So of course, when I originally did my research, I thought, oh yeah, A6 cover-on cover, great. But no, it turns out only those types of A6 covers are the ones to fit the cover-on cover here. Lo and behold, so maybe I'll have to get one of those next year, assuming I love this, and in 2027 I'll just reuse this one on the future one. That makes sense. I think it's potentially a good idea. Okay, one more thing to talk about here in this cool little video, totally different from what I normally do, by the way, but I've gone down this rabbit hole so far, I feel like we just have to talk about this and just hopefully save y'all some time and document what I've learned through this. Is the Tomoe River paper. So this paper, I don't know if you can tell on the camera here, but it's incredibly thin. It's literally like almost translucent thin and very crinkly like that. And the Weeks does use the same type of paper, by the way. So I'll just hold one up here really fast. Very thin, almost translucent. And the Tomoe River paper is really cool because it is very thin, like we just said, but it's great with different types of pens, which is why I got another pen, because who doesn't love new pens? But I also wanted to give it a try with some other types of pens too, like a rollerball, which is like a gel ink, and then of course fountain pens too, if you are into that kind of hobby. So fountain pens bleed like crazy, and of course you can use different types of ink in fountain pens. But this paper is notorious. It's named after the Tomoe River in Japan, which is, I think, where this paper is originally created from. And from there, you can basically, it has a very high density to it, despite being so thin and almost translucent, right? And I've tried this already with, this is a ballpoint pen. So ballpoint pens are usually the most stable types of ink. They write very easily, they dry very fast. They're also not very bold, so you don't have to worry about bleeding or anything like that. This is, of course, very fine tip ballpoint, but I wanted to give it a try on here because I just knew it'd be a very safe bet. And of course, the grid, and let's hold this up one more time here, the grid, and this is also true on the Weeks, and I think it's true on the A5 as well, are very thin. So when you try to write in a Hobonichi, and you try to keep your writing very uniform, it's very difficult to, especially when you have a very bold pen, because of just how fine these grid marks are, and how you really want to stay in between the lines there. Now, alternatively, I've got a few over here. You can try to do something like a rollerball pen, and just a couple that are really popular are something like the Energels, which I'm a big fan of. And you can also do something like the G2s, which is a 0.07. This is a 1.0 actually that I put in here. They also do come in a 0.07. But when you use that kind of bold gel ink in a Hobonichi, it doesn't work so well because the gel ink loves to roll, but it also loves to bleed onto the other page because it doesn't dry as fast. Something to be aware of. I did try that already in my Weeks a few months ago, and lo and behold, there are some bleed marks from a few months ago in my Weeks because I did try to use a 0.07 gel ink and I think I tried to use some other ones too, and they just love to bleed. So just be aware of that. I don't recommend using rollerball pens and gel pens for that reason, because the Tomoe River paper is very fine, but it doesn't work that well with gel ink. However, with that being said, the ballpoint pens work great. And then of course the fountain pens do too, because if you use a jar of this very fine, quick dry fountain pen ink, which you can buy at a lot of hobby shops and craft stores and things like that. The Tomo paper actually does very well with those, especially at the finer tips, because it does allow it to basically sink in and dry fast, which is great. I felt like that was something really important, and I know that's a huge selling point on Hobonichi. All right, let's wrap this video up. In conclusion, what have I learned? Well, I've learned that there are 3 big styles, right? You got the weeks, you got the standard A6, and you have the A5, which is like this one, except a lot bigger. These oftentimes come in collaborations, right? So you have the Zodiac ones, which are really cool. I'm a big fan of the snake one. The horse one for next year looks really cool too if you're into horses. Of course, One Piece, Tomy, Frog and Toad, Tamagotchi, the list goes on. I feel like they have just every year just tons of collaborations, tons of options you can choose from. So I think that alone is almost worth the price of admission as far as Hobonichi goes. And then you just pretty much have to choose which one you want to go with. So I think for a daily, just kind of get a full page, do anything you want. And then they also have the monthly view in the front too. The A6 here is a pretty great little notebook. It's very small. As a matter of fact, it's not quite as thin as the weeks, but it feels smaller because it's not as tall. And it's only about, like I said, maybe 3/4 of an inch wider, even though the cover on cover doesn't help. It makes it about an inch wider with the cover on cover on it. But I think this is a great little do anything, throw it around, keep an entire day's worth of activities in there, right? The weeks, I love this too, but I don't think it's quite a do everything book because of just how thin each day of the week is over here. You only get about, 6 grid marks each or so per day. And that's not a lot of room. If you do, like I said, several tasks per day, I think I have for today, I have like 6 or 7 tasks on here already that have to get done. And it's just not a lot of room. So if you want to keep that plus your quotes, plus your daily activities, right? I think the weeks is almost too small for that. So great for work, great for checklists, great for just kind of like a basic to-do book, right? But I don't know if I'm sold on it for an everything book. You have to have a very concise way of writing if you want to use this for everything. And then of course the A5 is the big one. So if you have lots of things to do every day, you like to draw, you want to have massive stickers and murals on each day of the week, then I think that's great. And then of course my phone, I feel like I've gotten to a point where I try not to rely on my phone as much. I don't know about you all, but phones have just gotten to the point where they're great for recording, they're great for pictures, they're great for some social media, right? Even though you really have to limit it sometimes. But at the same time, I feel like the notifications on my phone just don't pop up as much. I can't rely on them. I can't just load everything in my calendar and then just, be 15-minute intervals like that. So instead, I love having a physical planner. I love having this so I can at least open it up really quick, see the things I have to do for today, and then just very quickly remember it, because that is almost worth the price of admission in itself. So really, really quick, and just recap here, some prices just for USD. I got this snake weeks here a few months ago now. I think I paid about $38 USD for it, somewhere around there. And then I got the cover on cover here for $5. They are pretty cheap. I would definitely recommend it, especially if you get the cover that is compatible with it. So like I said, these woven covers on a week are great for it. And then you can also get the full-size A6 covers that have the 2 pen loops here. Also great for it too. And then that's just a really, really easy investment in my opinion. These ones are more expensive. The A6, I want to say it starts around $60 just for the book itself. And then a lot of these covers are like another $30 to $40 on top of it. So just letting you all know, the collaborations are really cool. I love the colors. I love One Piece and Tamagotchi and Frog and Toad and the other ones they have going on. But they're kind of expensive, so just know that going into it. I want to say this all in here is close to $100. So just be aware of that before you decide to go this route. And I think the cousins, the A5s, are like $120, $130 if you want to go all in for those. So they're a little bit on the expensive side. And of course, they're fun. They have a lot of room. They have a lot of nice to haves, like those quotes on the bottom of each page. They also have the room in the back for things like notes and other fun activities. And then of course the river paper itself is something that I think a lot of people are willing to pay for. So I would say these are definitely a little bit more expensive than your average journals out there. But like I said, between the collaborations, just the fun factor and the days of the week that you have, the different quotes and things like that, I think that the price becomes justifiable by the end of it. So do your own research, of course, check it around. I highly recommend checking out jetpens.com, which is where I bought most of the stuff from. They have some cool stuff. You can sign up for the notifications on there too if your favorite thing is out of stock right now. Like I said, I know some of them are out of stock very, very fast, so I'd recommend signing up for those to see if they do come back in stock. And then, of course, you can give it a try. If you go on Reddit and some of the other websites, you'll see some people who are absolutely crazy when it comes to these Hobonichis. They'll have two of them, one for work, one for personal life. They'll have tons of stickers, tons of different layouts, and some of them are just, it's almost like a job in itself, just like drawing each day of the week and keeping up with it. But if you're anything like me, it's at least great for inspiration and entertainment. So you can go on there and see some of the different things that you might want to do next year. So for that reason, I think it's a lot of fun. All right, everybody, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Maybe you'll buy your first one this year, right? I know there's a lot of cool ones coming out. And if you have any questions about this or you learned anything from this, let me know. Drop me a comment. I'll talk to you some more about it and maybe help you out. So maybe you do make the right decisions and not buy the wrong covers for them. I'm at least going to reuse this one though, so it's not a total loss. And I'll see you all next time. Peace.